Good afternoon. This is Talking Trade Live with On the Tools, and this episode is sponsored by our friends at Toolstation, quite relevantly because we are talking about how COVID has affected us trades going into suppliers and merchants. And we were just talking before we came on air, and Toolstation, fair play, seem to have got their whole sort of system from ordering and collection down to a T. Now, this is a very special show because it's three of us with the best name on the planet. It's Andy Cam, who's a plumber from Sheffield, and Andy Wilcox, who is a part-time electrician, bless him, because he doesn't need to work much because he's on huge wages. So it's great to have him back again. Andy Cam, how's COVID affected you with picking up stuff from your merchants, wholesalers and everything?
I think right at the very beginning, obviously people like Toolstation were great because they came out before all the others. And what you could do with those is do your click and collect, or you pay online, you turn up, there's somebody outside, you've not got to go inside and mix with people. You just show them the order, they went inside, pick your stuff up, and away you went, which is fantastic and a really good way of doing it. A lot of the merchants that opened a little bit later, they sort of when you went into the merchants, they treat you like a leper. It was like, oh, you can't come near me, don't come here, don't breathe, don't do this. And they were very difficult. There was obviously skeleton staff. There was, not many people there. You were queuing outside to get in, and it's still like that now, isn't it? But I think it's getting a little bit better, though, don't you?
I think it is getting better. It's a horrible word. It's a first. It's a pandemic. It's never unprecedented. Andy, a lot of people. Some trades are ordering more online because of difficulties collecting and social distancing and everything else. Are you still doing that, or are you enjoying your free cup of tea down at your wholesalers every morning?
They don't give away tea anymore, do they? Or pot noodles.
I mean, this is a major industry turning point. No free tea and coffee your suppliers. Are you doing more online collection-wise and ordering, or are you still going in?
Well, I use a local wholesalers. So I don't really use national wholesalers. I've got some really good guys down in Stratford, and they stayed open for the whole thing. So at the beginning, they did say if you want anything, you have to email us or text them. And then when you go down and pick it up, it was like being a prisoner having your dinner put under the cell door. It was like the stuff was pushed underneath this roller shutter door, and you just had to pick it up quickly. And that went on for a few weeks, and they stopped all deliveries because they've got a good delivery service. And then after, I don't know, probably about 5 or 6 weeks ago, they opened the doors again, and you have to go in, and where all the pot noodles used to be and all the free soup and all the tea, it's now like a hand sanitizing station. So you've got to wash your hands now before you go and see them. And they've got all screens and stuff up. It's quite funny. They've got these 3 screens up, but they've got bin liners in between the space in the screens because they're so paranoid about someone coughing on them, or like wearing rubber gloves and that, which is the right thing to do. But so I haven't used the national wholesalers so much. So the little local guys who I use, they've been absolutely fantastic, and they've served me well throughout the whole thing.
Well, I tell you what, Andy Wilcox, I hope it's not going to turn the show completely into free drinks and suppliers, but Brick Lane with Stephen and Alex are straight on the case. Our local has been the free drinks too.
Yeah, I think we should strike. We should have a strike.
People, but it's a nice thing to have a cup of coffee in the morning when you pick stuff up. Andy Cam, is your local wholesaler been there free drinks?
No, they've been it. Yeah, like I said, they had a drinks machine, but we used to go in there and see if you could drink a full cup in the morning. That would get you through any day. That's what we decided. So I'm quite pleased that they've stopped doing it.
Well, Gary Brown, thanks for the message. Could you let us know what trade you are? Because Gary Brown says he orders majority of his stuff online now. Andy Cam, are we heading to a click and collect industry, apart from obviously your bulk stuff, your bulk bags, sheets of plasterboard, timber? Could we do more online? That's a better way of putting it.
I think so. I think that even before the pandemic, a lot of people were doing more stuff online, especially the younger people. Obviously, you've got a mobile phone now. You can click and collect. You can order stuff. You can get stuff delivered. It's quite simple now, isn't it? And it's a lot easier to pay for your stuff. I mean, I think that the other good thing I like about it is another idea is that you pay for your stuff when you get it, rather than having to pay for it in 30 or 60 days, because sometimes people can get in a pickle. With the money, it's a bit like having someone else's money for 30 or 60 days for free, but then you can get in trouble because you've already spent it on something else. It's a bit like robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Andy Cam, Gary Brown, who came out with a comment about ordering most of his stuff online, he's one of your brigade. He's a plumber. So
good lad. We all love plumbing.
Yeah,
Come on, Gary.
poor guy.
Yeah. Sparkers, mate.
So, Andy Wilcox, you're obviously you're heartbroken with the lack of pot noodles and free tea and coffee. Is the whole process of going into these wholesalers now? We all have a chat, us trade, so it's nice to go in, cup of coffee, chat with all your mates behind the counter. But is this changing because there's screens, bin bags, partitions, social distancing? Is it going to change for the foreseeable future?
I don't know. We're not scientific, are we? I'm not sure how they. I think the screens will stay there forever now. If you're not going into a betting shop, won't it? They'll always be there. I'm not sure about the bin bags. They might get rid of them. But I like going in the wholesalers. I like the blokes in the wholesalers. We always talk about football and stuff down there. It's funny. I don't know what it's like in your two trades, but when you know when you go to wholesalers, you see people that you recognise, other customers. But in electricians, you always see everybody as like a competition. So you see them ordering something, you go, oh, what job's that for? What is that? Some of my customers you're nicking out. You always see electricians are funny with each other. I don't know if it's like that with plumbers and building trades, but it is funny with electricians. They're always sort of sizing each other up, unless you know them well. But there are some good people down. I just like going in. I don't order too much in advance. Because my van's too small, but I do like going in the wholesalers every morning and just seeing them and say hello. Because I work on my own all the time, and it's got a little bit lonely, especially when you can't get a pot noodle.
Oh. Well, I mean, this is groundbreaking stuff. Lack of pot noodles for Sparks. The industry's falling to pieces. Back to bricklaying with Steve and Alex. Another great point. And oh my lord, I'm with them on this. When you click and collect, they give you all the crap when they pick for you. So you ordered 20 bricks, 6 of them were chips. You order a pallet of plasterboard, all the edges are blown. Is this now getting worse because shortages of materials? So as you rightly know, Andy Cam, anything in the yard gets lobbed on the lorry. So are we now having to deal with poorer quality materials that are damaged because less is coming through because of COVID?
To be honest with you, I mean, I have noticed that there are some of the trades are really struggling, like the plasterers with plasterboards and plaster and stuff like that. It is difficult because if you're buying 8x4 plasterboards to put them up on a ceiling or a wall, you don't want the corner bashed off because that means that you've got to then start cutting them. You're going to be wasted, a lot more wastage, isn't it? And again with your bricks, if you've ordered 20, you're going to you've wanted to fit those 20 bricks, and if 6 of them are knackered, you're going to then have to go back and either go and fetch them yourself, which defeats the object of actually ordering it in the first place, isn't it? Also, or do you start thinking, well, I better order 30, but then you're paying for more, aren't you? So it's like a double-edged sword. It's very difficult to decide what to do. The only thing I would say is that if they come and they're damaged, then obviously you've got the right to send them back, haven't you? But then you're waiting for your materials, which is again terrible.
Yeah, I think it's a dream. I think this. You're talking about builders merchants. I don't really go to builders merchants, but I did have to go to in sort of just the end of the lockdown. I had to go and pick up like 2 pieces of plasterboard. They were that big from a local builders merchants that remain unnamed. And this must be like a Jobsworth's like dream situation, mustn't it? The people with like high vis. They love their high vis jacket. They love their like clipboard because the guy on this gate. His builders merchants was like something from the 1920s. He'd come out shouting at us, right, what time's your appointment? And I was like, well, it's not for 20 minutes yet. I can't pick it. Well, you have to get to the back of the queue. Who's the next? I said, well, there's nobody in front of me. But by the time I'd done an internal body search. When I'd gone in, you had to go into 3 like different bays that were really wide, and then he would come over with another clipboard and say, well, what was the thing you ordered? I said, I told you that. That's only 2 pieces of plasterboard. And eventually he brought out, it is a bloody dream for Jobsworths. They love it, don't they? They go to Jobsworth school with their high vis coat on and their clipboard. They're just there to wind us up, I think.
Well, if you look at it, I mean, every merchant's got one, haven't they? And every, if it's electrical wholesalers, if it's a big national, if it's a regional, you've always got that Jobsworth. And as you say, Andy, this is just hilarious. When I went in the other day and it was 5 minutes before they shut, the barrier was down, and I'm not going to name who it was. It was a national merchant, and he said, "Oh, you here to collect something?" I was, well, no, I've just come here for a laugh. I'm in a van. You're a merchant. You're open.
I want a high vis jacket like you.
Yeah, and he had his high vis on, obviously. he went mad because I was thinking of coming in because I might go over there, 5 p.m. closing time. Andy Cam, you must have seen these absolute circuses going into your merchants. This is time for them to come to the fore, isn't it?
It's brilliant because I think that everybody's got one and they've been waiting for this time to unleash them onto the rest of us, to be honest with you. It's like, he's in that cupboard. Go and get him out, Nigel. It's called Nigel. Get him out.
He used to be a traffic warden. Get him in.
Bring him out and where's my clipboard? I want a clipboard. And here's your high-vis jacket, clipboard. Get yourself off out there and upset as many people as you can. That's what they must be hiding in closets ready to come out. It's brilliant. It's fantastic because I've been in the merchants and like you said, Andy, it's like, there's people there, they shout at you, get in that line, stop. And you feel like you're at school, where do I go? What do I do? Stand on that circle, don't move. You're like, okay. And then when you get to the front, you feel like you've been, one, ridiculed, and two, questioned beyond all questionability about your validity at being in that place to pick some materials up just so you can go and do your job.
Yeah.
This is Talking Trade Live with On the Tools, sponsored by our friends at Toolstation, who seem to be, leading the way with their social distancing. Click and collect, turn up, it's all ready, and everyone's at 2 meters. Are other merchants and suppliers up to speed, or are we now having more Jobsworth leaping to the front and getting in everyone's way? I've certainly seen recently that these high-vis nightmares, this is something that puts them into their element, and it makes an absolute nightmare for us. We could even have a comedy show on this. We could pick the best Jobsworth in sort of regionalise it to South, Midlands, North, because there are some absolute circuses out there, which sadly for them, it's they feel like they're in charge. But again, Andy Cam is causing delays. We haven't got time to be mucked about by Gestapo man or woman when we just want to go and put some gear up.
It's true because, you wait outside these places. One, you don't want to be there in the first place to pick your materials up because you're not earning any money. A lot of people, especially in the building trade, if you've not got your tools in your hand, you ain't earning money. And so by going to merchants and queuing up for, what can be half an hour sometimes just to get in somewhere, for them to then say, we haven't got that, or, it's just totally annoying. And so what we're saying is that, if you're a self-employed person, who's going to be paying for the time that you take to go and fetch the stuff? You've got to, one, you might have to pay over the odds for certain stuff, and two, you might have had to wait for half an hour just to get in somewhere to be able to talk to somebody about, picking something up. It's a joke sometimes. It really is. It's got to get better, hasn't it? It's got to get better.
It seems to be more and more people ordering online. I know friends that are different trades all the way through, to sort of multi-trades down to specialist trades, finishing trades, etc. And they're ordering online. Andy Wilcox, do you think this is going to become a habit, or are we going to go back to the good old days of rocking up at 7:30, loading the van and then going, or are more people going to use this online click and collect?
Oh, I mean, online click and collect is amazing, isn't it? I mean, more people are doing it with Tesco shopping. It depends, I think, as a tradesperson, how organised you are, because like I say, I like going in the wholesalers in the morning to get my stuff. So I won't use a click and collect service for that. Although over the lockdown, I did order some stuff from Toolstation. Actually, they're not just because they're sponsoring the show, but I have to say their online thing was very easy to use, and the stuff that came straight. It was brilliant. But I wouldn't use that so much. But if you were running loads of different blokes and you had people working for you and you had to order stuff materials, then yes, I do think you would use a click and collect service a lot more, which is a brilliant thing. I mean, even with my own wholesalers, I should really email them and say I want these bits, which I do sometimes. But like I say, I like going in the morning. So I think it's down to who you are really. But talking about standing in queues, I mean, only this week in another national wholesaler, someone was murdered because they allegedly, they told me this, that they jumped the queue, or you got a queue up at these wholesalers. They jumped the queue and they got into a bit of a scuffle, and the guy was killed up in Manchester, I think it was. So we have to be patient in the queues. Even as a click and collect service, you have to be patient and just make sure that we wait our time, because we're all rushing, aren't we?
We're all rushing. Tricia White's a fan of click and collect. She's just sent a comment in. Click and collect is a winner. Certainly, she's a fan. One positive thing from my point of view, but I think this is negative for the likes of Toolstation, which I do use quite a bit, is if you can't go in while you're waiting for your pick, how many of us have a little rummage around on special offers? And everything, if it's a tape, we love tapes, don't we? We've got millions of them, all of us, or a pair of boots or a drill bit. I always pick something up just in that little bit out the front while you're waiting for their pick. Andy, Cam, do you do the same?
I think everybody does, don't we? I mean, we all like.
We could be losing quite a bit of money because we're not allowed into money.
Yeah. What about if they could do that on the click and collect? So while you're ordering, they put other things on just to sort of entice you into buying something else. Might be able to do that. You see, have a little bucket that you can have a quick look in and pick something out of there. That might be a little idea for them.
Yeah, so is this the way it's going, Andy Wilcox? Because I know what you Sparks are like. You love a good little, new tape or laser level or new Rolls Royce, whatever you're picking at the time. But do you think it's a good idea that Andy says? Because if they've got a specials on your virtual trolley, like they have in the store, then that's, to me, all of us use it. I think it would work online. I agree with Andy on that.
Yeah, I think it would work. I mean, I think electricians are the only trade that use tape measures, aren't they? Don't the rest of you measure like that with your hands?
They use laser levels that cost about $4 grand.
Oh, yeah, of course.
We have happy chocolate tape measures and Christmas crackers.
No, I mean, rummaging, that's going to be a thing of the past, isn't it? We can't be putting our hands in different bins and stuff. But yeah, I mean, Toolstation and other places, they have different things on offer, and don't they? That stuff they can't sell that's on shelves and things. But that might be quite a good idea to have a virtual bucket online, mightn't it? And go in and choose what's on special offer.
Well, I'm going to get you back now because you've just had us with tape measures. Now, what I'm going to say to you is, when you were queuing up for those 2 plasterboards, was it to patch all the downlights up that you put in the wrong place?
Yeah. When I drew through that pipe, it was in the wrong place.
Tom Pinfield needs to get on this show sharpish because he's got the same sense of humour, but also the reality of working with Sparks. His comment: see if they can tempt a Sparky to get a dustpan out the specials offer crate.
That's a myth. I don't know where that comes from.
If anybody has ever seen a Spark with a Hoover or a dustpan, please get in touch with the show because we will pay for an all-round, round the world ticket for nothing. But it doesn't exist. Sparks never clear up. Every switch, there's a little snippets of cable and the plastic that come in.
Not all electricians. I don't. That's why I can't. I've got Hoovers and dustpans and bloody dust sheets everywhere.
Well, Sarah Hall, in the way the show's going, she says tradesmen always tell the best jokes. And I think this goes back to what you were saying, Andy Wilcox, is we like going in to see suppliers first thing because we do have a laugh with them. Free coffee, a biscuit if you're lucky. And I think people that are slightly older in the tooth that get into habits like that might not click and collect as much as younger people. Would you agree?
Yeah, I like my dad, for instance, is still working in a trade. He wouldn't click and collect. So, like you said earlier, a lot of people his age wouldn't even know how to get the internet on their phone or an app. He doesn't know what that is. So they do like. I mean, I went and did a job for a builder the other day. He must have been 80 years old. I can't believe it. He wasn't actually on the tools, but he had like a tiny old farmer's waistcoat on, and he wouldn't use a click and collect service. He goes in and chat with a clipboard. So it depends on your age on that thing. I don't really like being on my phone on apps and stuff too much. But yeah, like I say, it's the type of business you got, isn't it? If you're just a one-man band like me, you'll go in. But if you've got guys going, it is easier to click and collect, like it is to get your groceries.
Andy Cam, a lot of merchants from wholesalers all the way through to nationals, regionals, people like Toolstation, a lot of them have remained open since COVID started back in March. You would have thought they would have everything down to a T because they've had a few months practice at it. But I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. Judging by some of the nationals I've been in, it's like a Wild West saloon.
Again, I think that all they do is get told what to do by people a bit higher up than them, and then they get told by someone higher up than them. And there's no real set pattern to anything, is there? It's like I don't know, one merchant might see another merchant doing something. Oh, that's a good idea. We'll implement that, and so then they do it, and then the other people have changed their mind and they go, do something else. I mean, I do know that as of tomorrow, I know that you've got to wear your masks in Tesco's and other supermarkets are available, but they're out there. But you've got to wear your mask, and I know that a lot of the merchants are now saying that you'll be wearing one of these to get into a merchant, you can't even go in it without having one of those on. And I get that, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, let's all do exactly the same. You know, if there's no point, you know, if you're the government saying you can wear these masks in this shop, but you don't have to wear them in that shop, and you can go in that shop and you don't have to, but you have to in this shop. So why don't you just say, whenever you're in an enclosed place, you wear one of these, and whenever you're not, you know, whether you're in a pub or you're eating something in a restaurant, you can't wear one of these. Let's use a bit of common sense and say yes or no. There's none of that. People saying you should be doing this, you should be doing that. Let's have a bit of directive. It's not difficult, is it? You know, just to say what you should and shouldn't be doing.
We'll come back to the mask thing because, sorry, Andy, we'll come back to the mask thing because that's something as of tomorrow. You're right. You know, are we going to wear them? Are we not going to wear them? I just want to pick up on Ashley Ashbash Hardy, great name. His comment, he works for Ibstock Bricks, which obviously we all know, covering merchants in the south. And I think click and collect is a great idea. Now, this is a good opinion. His opinion, we will continue in the future to go into merchants as we used to. You can't beat a personal touch. Back to you, Mr. Wilcox. You know, it's true, isn't it? You build relationships, which means, you know, as a big sort of firm, where you're looking for a load of deliveries, if you've got the relationship, you can call them up and say, we need first drop, mate. Can you shunt us up the list? So you're right. The personal touch is important still, isn't it?
Yeah. All businesses thrive on building relationships. If you build relationships, and it's the same for wholesalers. And with electrics, I'm not sure about other trades, but I'll go in there and say, oh, I'm trying to do this, you know, with this type of light fitting. I'm not quite, you know, what have you got? And they will say, well, have you thought about using this brand? Or you know, we've got these lights in. You haven't got that online on click and collect. You can't really have someone there going in the corner going, well, have you seen this light, this new thing we've got in? That's what I love about it. Going in the wholesalers, because I can always ask them. Even though I'm an electrician and wholesalers, they still know more than I do about LED lighting. I'm still catching up with so many different products on LED lighting out there, but because they always have people coming in, different reps selling LED lighting to them, they know everything about LED lighting. So I'll say I'm trying to, you know, get this to work and make this happen in this house, and they say, well, we've got this product, and that is much harder to do that online. So relationships are king, and that's how businesses thrive, by building them, and that is harder to do on click and collect. But again, like I say, it depends on the size of the business you're in, I think, because it is easier to click and collect if you've got loads of blokes.
Well, being a multi-trade, I find that going into suppliers, national and sort of specialist timber yards, that's where I hear about new products, new materials, shortages. It's almost like the gossip section. And without me going in there, I wouldn't know that in X weeks we've got a big spike in timber prices, or an insulation plant burnt down, which you did years ago. There might be a shortage in that. So I feel that I'm going to keep going in because I do like a chat, but you hear about stuff which you can then plan ahead, rather than suddenly get braced with, well, we've run out, mate. Well, if you come in a few weeks ago, we were talking about that. Andy Cam, are you agreement with that? I find out loads. You know, I'll give you an example. Years ago, when they were trying to do imitation stock bricks, it wasn't Ibstock that Guy just mentioned, it was somebody else. He bought in 6 new bricks that were London stock imitations. He went to the manager, said, what do you think of these? He said, speak to Andy. He lays bricks, blah, blah. And I looked, I said, they're absolute crap. And the manager looked at me and he said, do you think? I said, look, they're nothing like reclaimed stocks. This is missing. And because of that, he came back in a few months and they were a lot better. And to me, building that big relationship, working with suppliers, you get a lot more from it than click and collect. But am I too old school, mate?
To be honest with you, I think a lot of the older people like us or like me, we do tend to go into the merchants and pick stuff up. I think the other thing about that you've not touched upon is when you're going into the merchants, you can argue about prices as well, can't you? You can't, when you're clicking collecting, you can't say, well, hang on a minute, I can get 10 quid cheaper down the road, and are you going to price match, that kind of stuff. So I think that'll have gone out the window unless you've got really, really good, you know, trustworthy brands that you can price at the right price, because otherwise people are just going to be, you know, there'll be apps out there, won't there, that you're going to be able to just type in what you want and it'll tell you exactly where to get it from for the cheapest price. And I think that'll come. That is going to be coming. You know, it's a, you know, you go on an app, you just type in plumbing materials, what you want, and it'll tell you where to go for the cheapest price for what you want. And then it'll be, is that sort of a race to the bottom? You know, you end up, everybody's cutting each other's throat to get the cheapest sort of and the best. But are you realistically racing to the bottom? You know, it's difficult, isn't it?
Well, I'll be honest. From my side of things, I would rather pay 20% more on something like timber, knowing that every single length of 8x2 at 4.8 is straight. It's not bowed. It's not got massive lumps missing. Because you turn up, say you've got a lorry load of the stuff, you're doing a loft or pitching a big roof. What do you do when 30% is knackered? So this, I mean, the pricing thing, we'll talk about another day. Clinton Mitson's made a good point. He's been working throughout and not had any issues at all. Things are different now. We all have to get used to the new normal. Fair point. You just have to be a bit more organised and use a bit more common sense. And I think that is highlighting the fact that perhaps a lot of us are stuck in our ways and we need to sort of move things forward. Nathan Jenkins, he's also agreeing with us. It's always good to see what's on the shelves. Always pick something up that would have been missed with click and collect. I remember things. I've got no memory at all. 25 years of playing rugby, getting kicked around the field. And when I go in, you do forget things, but you see it on a shelf, you think, brilliant, that's what I needed. And therefore, you don't get that with click and collect. And I think that's, we've got, another comment about click and collect. We're sounding like some supermarket channel, but that's the way things are going. Kerry Martin, click and collect is great until you get stuck in the queue behind Wavy Mavy's deciding which colour plug she frigging wants. And this is true. You know, if you get a DIY and it's like, oh, fence panels, you know, I need it in this colour. Suddenly 40 minutes has gone and you're behind. This goes back. Shall we have a trade section and a DIY section, or do trades go in first? Andy Wilcox, if you're ahead of all the merchants, would you have us trades going in the first 2 hours to get rid of all the DIYs so we can buy materials like plaster that's short and we can also get our stuff and get to work?
That is a good idea, but then we're sort of discriminating against the DIYers, and I suppose what they need is one of those jobs.
NHS workers and elderly that were up against it, you know, were discriminating against youngsters. You know, to wholeheartedly, NHS workers, elderly should have gone to supermarkets first, which they did, and it was great to see. But we can't work without plaster. You look over at all the internet, you know, for social sites, you're getting people turn up in these old cars, loading up 35 bags of finish. And there's a spread who can't go to work. So I think that needs to be looked at more. Are you agreeing, Andy, or are you sort of on your moral high ground there, mate?
Always on the moral high ground. No, the NHS thing, that was completely right, wasn't it? It's fun. It's amazing how people have forgotten about that. NHS things in the Clap the NHS era. That just seems to be completely forgotten. That's another show. But yeah, that would be a good idea. But I can just see the problems it would cause, because people are always on edge a little bit with all these different changes anyway, aren't they? And if we stop them from going in first 2 hours, I mean, someone could try it, couldn't they? But I know that it probably wouldn't work very well for some people, because people love to moan about things and they would give in, I think.
Well, listen, this show, we've been talking about COVID. How has it affected us? Click and collect, ordering online, going into merchants. We've got the best of the best on this show, all got the same name. However, Christina Sweeney, I can only apologise. She's come on and said she's got no clue why I'm here. Fit blokes, ? I can only apologise. We've done a lot of research. We felt that Andy were the best out there. So maybe need to go on to some daytime rubbish and watch that. Great to have you anyway, and I think we'll all have a bit of a makeover for the next show. Sonny Wilson has made a point we've not touched upon, and I'm pleased to thanks Sonny. I'm a plasterer and in regular contact with BG, obviously British Gypsum. So is this something that as trades we've been lazy, that we've not contacted? He's a spread, he needs finish, bonding hardware, whatever. Is that a point? We need to make effort off our own back, because this is a new normal, and speak to merchants / suppliers directly. Andy Cam.
Again, I think that, you know, with me, it's going to be sort of boiler manufacturers, isn't it? If the boiler manufacturers aren't manufacturing the boilers like they didn't, because obviously they couldn't work, they've now come back in, and I think that a lot of them are realising that they can do as much with smaller workforces. So, you know, I don't know what's good. That's obviously another show as well. But I think that realistically, if you've got certain boiler jobs that are coming up, what I try and do is order them, you know, as far as I can in front, that I can, so I know that I've got the materials to be able to do the job. Because, like you said, or like that guy said, it's difficult to especially with the plaster. If they're not making plaster, how are you going to get the plaster? And you know, it's been okay for us because we've been okay, been managed to be able to get everything. But I know that the plasterers have really struggled to get the bags of plaster to get their jobs done.
Well, I've got some great news, Andy and Andy. Christina Sweeney's been back in touch. No, I meant it's a reason she's here. Fit guy.
Oh,
Bless her. She might need to go to Specsavers and get those eyes looked at again. But thanks for a lovely comment. Moving away from the subject that we're talking about slightly, because we've all got a responsibility to help each other out in this industry. Jay has sent a message saying, anyone in the West Midlands need a labourer. He's obviously a lad up there, West Midlands, as he says, looking for some work. Perhaps been affected by COVID, or maybe the firm he's working for has laid him off. If anyone is watching, please contact on the tools, and it would be great if we can try and get Jay some work up in that area. Back to the subject. We haven't got long left. Time's flown by. We've been talking about delivering. Are we doing click and collect more? What's the experience like going into merchants with COVID? Well, Andy Cam, you touched upon it earlier. Are we going to have to wear masks in suppliers from tomorrow, Friday? If we don't, are they not going to serve us? And are we therefore going to supply our own masks?
Well, again, of course, you're going to have to supply your own stuff, because you should have got your own PPE when you're going into people's properties anyway. You should have already got all that anyway. So all I'm saying, it's no biggie to go and, buy a mask and wear it when you go into places, because you're going to try and save yourself and other people. There's no point arguing whether it works or it doesn't work. It's a rule, and that's what we're going to have to adhere to. So yeah, I'll wear mine, and I will have to, because I've had an email off a big big massive company, and they've said if I don't wear a mask, I'm not even allowed in there. So yeah, I'll wear it. And at the end of the day, I can't see what the big fuss is. It's a mask. Look, it's not. You're not stabbing yourself or cutting one of your ears off or anything like that. Or you're just wearing a mask. It's not rocket science, is it? You've got to wear it when you go into people's properties anyway. So come on, easy.
We've got a massive thing that we've quickly got time to talk about. Andy Wilcox, going into your wholesalers in the morning. Let's say suddenly the free tea, coffee, pot noodles are back on. How are you going to do that with a mask on?
Oh. Well, I think you have to cut a slit or something in. I don't know. No, I don't think that'll ever come back. It's like the rummage bin, isn't it? It's never going to. Sadly, I don't think that's ever going to come back. Maybe the machines that pop the things out, but I don't think that. Sadly, I don't think that's going to happen. But it's going to be weird at first, isn't it? The mask thing, but it was probably weird when they put seatbelts in cars. People, oh God, I can't be stupid having to put this seatbelt on. But like
How old are you, Andy Wilcox? Good God.
Only 21. That bloody paper line was all uphill.
Just to finish on a positive note, COVID's obviously not been great for the industry. We've got people being laid off, and sadly, people that have been affected by getting the illness. But it's always good to finish with a positive. And everybody probably, what are we on now? Show 15, I think. I would like to finish on hang on, it's flown off the comments here. Let's finish with Kerry Martin, and Andy Cam and me are going to be ganging up on Andy at the bottom. Kerry Martin this week. I'm a multi-trade, used to just be a Sparky, but got thrown out for constantly cleaning up after myself. Well, miracles happen. We're not sure if Kerry's been on the special brew this morning, because I've never seen a Spark tidy up. We've got to change the way we are with ordering and click and collect and everything because of COVID. Maybe that means electricians will clear up after themselves, but that is a discussion for another week. Andy and Annie, thanks ever so much. Andy, I'll leave you get back to your sort of dial-up internet connection and your funny old cars. Andy Cam, great to have you on board, mate. We will all be back next week.
Thank you very much.